Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 things I think you should know about the new moon we have here on March 2nd, 2022. For those of you who already are following me, this is also going to be the weekly energy update for the whole week. Number 1, being more efficient with your energy. And I don't mean that in some sort of like spiritual way, like your energy. I mean your actual physical energy. As you wake up, as you continue down this path of an ascension, an expansion of your consciousness, you start to become really clearly aware of what you're getting out of what you're putting into something. And you might find yourself realizing that there are certain things in your life, behaviors, actions, areas in which you spend your time that are not yielding the results that are worth it to you. On the other side of the coin is you also will probably find that there are things in your life that require minimal effort, can be done with a higher state of joy and excitement and just like a naturalness, like it just feels natural, like you're just, it's just like you're in your flow, and the results are phenomenal. I remember a long time ago I was doing one-on-one coaching, and I remember the first time I started to do one-on-one coaching online, it literally saved my family financially. I was making almost no money. I started coaching, I was supporting them, and we were living a pretty good lifestyle. But of course, like anything, that continued to evolve, and I got to a point where I had like 40 or 50 one-on-one clients at one time. And it sounds, for a coach, like a good deal, right? You're making good money, you're helping a lot of people, you're doing what you love. What started happening is I started getting clients mixed up. I started missing sessions and just making kind of like absent-minded mistakes because I had taken on too much. There was a couple of angry clients, and one of them said, "Victor, it almost feels like you don't even know who I am." And that cut me deep because it was true. I really didn't. This person was right. And so I felt bad. I felt like, what am I going to do? My lifestyle came to kind of depend on that type of income, and I just felt kind of trapped and fatigued, and like I wasn't even enjoying the coaching anymore. Problem. That's kind of the idea here. But what that finally led to is like, okay, I need to make a change. What could I do? And once I accepted that I'm gonna be the one that needs to make an adjustment and take the reins here. I had this sort of like, it wasn't really an idea actually. I found something online that was talking about group coaching. Sort of a concept at that point I had never considered. Group coaching? I could coach a lot of people at one time, all together? Interesting. And then I shifted into group coaching where I could handle 50 or even hundreds of clients, and I'd work with them all in like one session in a week. And I found that not only was that way easier, obviously, on my like workload, but it was actually better. These folks, contrary to what I thought, I was suspicious, like this might not be as good of a result. These people got better results because they could sort of bounce off and reflect things to each other. I could only do so much. It was like the group we were all healing together. And it was like I was making way more money. I could scale this. I was helping people in a deeper way, and I had gotten my time and energy back. So every time I showed up to that session, I was like, it was after yoga, a good meal, I was clear, I was focused, I was on point, and every session was that much deeper and more powerful. But this positive transformation came about with problems, with the realization that I've outgrown this circumstance and I'm not being efficient with my energy. So right now, my friends, long story short, it's a great week, it's a great time to really go through your life and apply, here's like a business principle that can help you. It's called the 80-20 rule. Most businesses, most people find that 80% of their productivity, their yield, only comes from 20% of their efforts. So you want to find out what is that 20% for you. What are the things you can do in your life that move the needle the most, and start doing more of that, and start omitting the things that are not producing the results that you deserve now. Number 2, my friends, The witness. In fact, what I wrote down in particular was being the witness more often, more naturally, more easily. Most of you know what that is, but essentially what I mean is looking at life from more of a state of neutrality and objectivity and healthy disconnection. We are more so identified with consciousness rather than the character you're playing. This is something we've all heard, a lot of like the enlightened masters speak about this, and we can understand it, but we don't necessarily live like that all the time. Well, you might notice you're starting to actually embody this higher state of awareness, the witness, more often. But like a lot of good things in life, similar to what I was saying here, the initial experience can seem frustrating. Because what you'll realize is that your emotional responses to various comings and goings within your life are completely out of proportion and out of whack. I had this thing that happened this morning when I got this message from my Instagram, and it was a very nice message. I don't want to get into the whole detail, but my emotional reaction was of extreme rejection. I felt extremely rejected and down on myself, and there was this feeling in my chest that I felt many times in my life before of like unworthiness, rejection. And if I was to kind of read the comments to you, you'd say, Victor, why on earth would you feel that way? That's nonsense. And it is nonsense. And when you witness yourself reacting emotionally to something in such a disproportionate way, it can be frustrating because it's like, I know the answer here. I know I shouldn't be responding this way. It doesn't make any sense, but I can't help these emotional pulses going through my body. But it is within this sort of triggered experience, though frustrating, that you can have a lot of major breakthroughs. Because only when you realize that I am responding in a disproportionate way to the circumstance can you start to ask yourself, this begs the question, why? Why? Why these emotions for this? And then you start to get the answer. Oh, whoa. You start to see the connection. You start to see how this circumstance only triggered these emotions because it reminds you of something else that happened usually in like early childhood. And you realize that one experience left an imprint on you big time. I'll give an example of how like benign it can be, but to a little kid, it's a big deal. I had this epiphany just like a half hour ago on my couch. I was feeling that rejection, right? And I was asking myself the question, why? Why are you feeling this way, bro? This is ridiculous. You shouldn't be feeling this way. But I was. And then I remember when I was a little kid, I was with this friend of mine, a good friend of mine named Michael. And I forgot how he said it, but he said like his parents were talking to some of the other parents in the neighborhood. And one of the parents said to his mom or something, oh, that Victor Oddo, and had this kind of look, implying like I was a bad kid. I was like one of the troublemakers on the neighborhood. And all of a sudden I felt, it took me off guard. Even though I maybe, comparatively speaking, was somewhat of like that, I had gone through my life up until like 10 years old thinking I was like a really nice kid, a really good kid. I always did my best. So to hear that people thought I was like a bad kid, it gave me that exact same feeling of like surprised rejection. Like I thought I was accepted. Oh God, I guess I'm not. So it wasn't like I was traumatized, but that was a connection I was able to make. And once I was able to see how it all connected, the energy started to dissipate. And I believe going forward, I won't be so hypersensitive to these particular triggers that remind me of that time in my life. So anyway, this is just a little personal breakthrough for me I had earlier today, just sort of like nonchalantly. So if you're feeling all the things I mentioned, my friend, and you're being the witness more, and you're witnessing yourself react in a way you don't prefer, ask yourself what I ask myself. Why? And in this state of higher consciousness you are now in, you just might start getting the answers. And those answers can set you free. Number 3 is a very exciting one. 5D glimpses. What I mean by that, and this has happened to me literally like here and there, not that frequently, but here and there over the past like 12, 13, 14 years. It's almost where I feel like for a few moments or maybe an hour, I'm living in what people call 5D, the fifth dimension, where there's just a ridiculous amount of flow and joy, and the vibe of my reality bubble is of incredible happiness and appreciation and gratitude and almost like awe as things synchronistically kind of piece themselves together, and life almost speaks to you in a way that it's almost like life is putting on a performance for you of just reflecting your state of joy, and it's just so wonderful. One of the times that comes to mind as an example is me and my wife, you know, a lot of you know that for a while we were living in Michigan and we wanted to move out of there, and it took us some time, and it was quite a journey and quite a process of moving to San Diego where we once lived. And there was this time where me and my wife went on this date to a Mission Beach in San Diego, and we'd smoked some ganja, which I don't smoke all that much, but it was like, it put us in this beautiful state. And if you've ever been to Mission Beach in San Diego, it's got this kind of cool vibe of just like carefree. It's like that carefree bohemian sort of flavor of everyone just sort of chilling, enjoying the beautiful ocean. And me and my wife went to this restaurant up that was kind of up high where it was overlooking the ocean, and the sun was setting. And we were like pleasantly high, you could say. And these seagulls were kind of just coasting, you know, like their wings were just open. They weren't flapping, just kind of. And there's music playing. We had good food coming. And we were just both in a good mood, feeling so appreciative. And it felt like, man, life is awesome in this moment. And sometimes we get these 5D glimpses to show us just why we're doing all this work. All this inner work, all these outer changes, all these leaps of faith, all these like life/soul lessons we constantly, it's like our life becomes a puzzle we're always having to figure out. And all this work, it's work. The spiritual awakening is work. All this work is leading to our ability to exist at this higher frequency where this, what as I described before, is how life can be. And I get these glimpses sometimes, and it's almost to say like, keep going. Don't forget why you're here. Don't forget why you came here. You came here to go into the darkness, all of us. You came here to experience yourself getting out of the darkness. And wow, what pride our souls will have as we do something like that. But you also didn't come only for that. You also came to experience the fruits of your labor. And here's an example of why you're here and why you're doing it. So just be on the lookout, even though you don't have to be. You might just find yourself in a place of flow and ease. Not the whole week, not only on the new moon, no. But you might find yourself getting these little 5D glimpses. And I pray you do. I pray you give yourself these little confirmations. Because I know for me, they really seem to help re-inspire me to keep on keeping on. Number 4, connecting with the other side. As you tap into more of a 5D level of consciousness, you can also, part of that is the ability to perceive and sometimes interact with and gain benefit from and just feel the presences of consciousnesses, souls on the other side, meaning like beyond the veil, who have crossed over, who are not physical. You can sort of tap into that sometimes. For me, it happens a lot in the dream time. For you, it might be, you might see orbs and auras. Some of you might just have like, maybe you do tarot readings, and all of a sudden like the tarot readings are just so freaking, so crazy spot on that you're like, holy shit, like your mind is blown. One time I was reading these tarot cards, and it was from Doreen Virtue's Archangel Michael cards. And one of the cards says the word yes or something. And I was like trying to contact my spirit guide at the time, and I felt them, and I kind of like saw their outline in a sense. This doesn't happen all the time. This is a long time ago. And I asked the cards, I was like, are you my spirit guide? And then the yes card, out of like 50 cards, the yes card flipped up. Yes. Just an example, my friends. For me, lately it's been happening in the dream time. I have this good friend of mine named Derek who crossed over a few months ago. Dear friend of mine, all through, we've done everything together. Very, very close friend. And literally every single night, I dream about him. And I don't even think about him necessarily throughout the day. I've done a lot of grieving and I feel a lot better about it. But every night, lo and behold, he's in my dreams. But anyway, even though he had crossed over, I get to sort of hang out with him in kind of a nonchalant way in my dreams in one form or another almost every single night. So you might find yourself tapping into the other side beyond the veil in your own way. For a lot of you, it might have to do with like your ET connections. Like that's a big part of this awakening is the gradual understanding and warming up to the fact that we are not alone here in the universe. Most of us know that, but it's a big deal for the collective consciousness to, as a whole, accept that. And the more we accept that, the more we become aware and accept, the more it becomes our experience. And it's like a total paradigm shift that almost reminds me of the movie The Truman Show. A lot of you have probably seen that movie. It's got Jim Carrey. He goes through his entire life until he's like in his mid-30s thinking that this little town, this like TV set is his entire existence, his entire reality. But there comes a point where he takes a boat to the other side of the little lake that ends in a wall, this sort of fake wall, and he opens the door. And you can imagine someone thinking that their life, their reality is this big, and opening one door and realizing it's like millions of times infinitely bigger. If we could have continued watching Mr. Truman, he might have had some adjusting to do, right? And that's kind of what we're experiencing now. So this big thing, this big paradigm shift the planet's going through will oftentimes start with you guys, the starseeds, the light workers, who are becoming more and more in contact with the other side, with the ETs, and becoming more and more comfortable with that idea. Because I know for me, every time I go deeper in that regard, a lot of the times I'll experience fear that gets sort of triggered as my mind is adjusting to this being actually part of my reality. So anyway, a lot of you are the forerunners doing that for the collective. Others, you might experience this exact same connecting with the other side as a blanket term for becoming more aware of your spirit guides or your ancestors. I have my deceased grandparents always around and helping me out, coming into my dreams, coming into my plant medicine ceremonies. They're always making an appearance. This can happen in many, many different ways, but it's just we're living in a level of consciousness now where doesn't require so much belief to know this, for these things to be part of our reality. They're just becoming part of our everyday reality in our own way. And number 5, the Slingshot Effect. This is an analogy I'm going to share with you. Many of you have probably heard either me talking about it or the person who said it, but I'm going to use it in a sort of a specific way. But anyway, generally, a slingshot analogy was given by this guy named Bashar. He's a channeler, an ET channeler actually. And he says, the further you pull the slingshot back into your own shadow, your own darkness, your own ego, when you finally let that go, you will swing, you will sling in that same proportion in which you pulled back, that much more into the light. The more you allow yourself to go into those deep, uncomfortable, shadowy emotions that are so hard to face sometimes, that much more light you'll embody. That's kind of what I'm referring to now is you might find yourself slinging. You might find yourself finally having let that go. Not to say your shadow work's all done. I don't think it ever will be, I don't think. But it does mean you'll start to maybe feel the sensation of you finally getting the ball rolling and getting some momentum in going forward from this space. In particular with your life purpose. There can be times where you go through like a lengthy, prolonged period of intense shadow work that seems to be going nowhere. You have little breakthroughs and epiphanies here and there, but generally you're like taken over by your shadow for quite some time. And it can be you can almost forget that the sun is still there, even though the clouds are covering it, you know? But there comes a point where it's not just all that. There comes a point where after that, oftentimes it will start to transition with you getting a lot of like ideas and inspirations and just creative bursts of insight to where you want to do something. You want to do something with your purpose. You want to share, you want to give, you want to teach, you want to heal, you want to help in some way, and you'll feel this guidance within you fueling it. And this week is not only a time of getting those ideas, but you might find yourself making headway, making progress in that area. And it's a beautiful thing, because all that shadow work you've been doing is going to allow you to help, to serve, to give back in a way, in a deeper way that you simply could not have had you not dedicated yourself, willingly or not, into such a stint of shadow work. So it's a time, this new moon's a time of like transitioning out of this period and going into the light, into service, and you might just experience just a lot of really cool ideas. And I've been watching my wife go through this. It's kind of like we've taken turns. I went through a lot of my deep, dark stuff for a while, and she held space, kind of held down the fort with the family, and now it's my turn to do the same for her. And I've been watching her go through just a lot of healing, a lot of confrontation with her, just like childhood traumas and stuff like that. Really hard to deal with those kind of things when it comes up so forcefully. And just the other day, we were sitting in the kitchen right there, and she was saying, I feel like it's time to do another women's retreat. And I could just tell she had like this state of, she was in this like excited, in a good way, excited state of where they were just she was getting downloads and ideas, and there was this, she was like in a state of extreme excitement and like happy, giddy anticipation for their future, because she knows it's time to do the retreat. And she's getting all this support, this divine guidance, and it's gonna be awesome. Like that kind of like, this feeling of like, I can't wait to get out there and do my thing. And I feel like a new person. And that's just, all these updates, guys, it's just me sharing metaphors and sharing things I notice in my own life. And because we're all connected, especially now, that you can use as a metaphor for your own life. Maybe you've been in the shadow realms for a long time. And I'm just telling you from my experience, you don't have to be there forever. There comes a time where you not only come out of it, but you come out of it with something special to share with the world. And this new moon period is a time where you might find out what that special something is. And I promise you, once you feel it, even it's just the idea, once you feel the resonance of it, you'll deem all of that madness that you may have had to go through totally worth it. Okay, it is now time for the tip of the week. This is one simple piece of advice that will help you get the most out of this. Get the most out of this profound week. And the tip is, I don't believe you can read it, it says focus on the process. This advice was inspired by my 12-year-old daughter's basketball coach, Jeff. He's a badass. I feel so blessed that this dude was in my daughter's life. He's so cool. And anyway, he talked about, they just had their championship game yesterday actually. And my daughter Maya, their team won big time. And he said, listen, I don't want you guys to go out there and focus on winning. I don't want you to care about the score or the numbers. He said, I want you all diving for balls. He said, I want to see you come out there and play with all your heart and all your might and just play with soul and vigor. He said, whatever happens, sometimes the score will go your way, sometimes it won't. I want you to focus on the process, not the outcome. And in doing so, they like quadrupled this poor, almost felt bad for them, but they quadrupled this other team's score. They played like freaking rock stars out there. And you could tell they were following the coach's advice exactly. When you focus on the process, the outcome usually is quite favorable. Because when you focus on the outcome of something, you're like distracted. You can only do so many things at once with your focus. But you need to focus on just doing your job, doing your thing, whatever that is, to the best of your ability, regardless of how the cards fall. Usually the cards fall in your favor. And the cool thing is, you don't even need them to. In fact, the coach gave this like speech because they were given this trophy and all these awards and stuff. And he's like, listen, I don't care about the score. I don't care about the trophy. I don't care about the awards. He says, seeing the way those kids played, like that is what matters, regardless of the outcome. And that's the same thing. When you focus on the process, when you focus on just doing your thing, doing your dance, whatever it is, that in itself is a very joyful, fulfilling, rewarding thing. And this weird world we live in sometimes, unfortunately, doesn't reward those efforts. Sometimes it does. It reminds me of like being on social media will teach you this a lot. Sometimes I'll put out a video or a piece of content that I feel like this I could totally see going viral or catching on. I just feel like it might. Oftentimes it doesn't. Sometimes my best videos, where I just feel like that was my best work. I felt amazing. I wrote this one email not that long ago. I was so proud of the email. I talked about like the Doors, the band The Doors, and things like that. And it was just like in my opinion, one of my best, well-crafted emails. And like it got very little feedback. I could tell it just didn't resonate with the people. And there are other times where I put out like a YouTube video that I feel like this is not even close to my best work, and it goes crazy. It's a very fickle circumstance. You just don't know how the world's going to respond, honestly. But what I've learned over the years is to just trust my own take. I can tell, you can tell, we can tell when we're in the flow, when we're being authentic, when we're doing our best. And that's all we can ask for. The world is going to reciprocate the way it does. But when we are authentic, when we try our damnedest and we do our best, we can go to bed with just feeling good about ourselves regardless. Also, my friends, just so you know, I'm running a retreat in Sedona this June, where I'm gathering people like you from all over the world to come together for an experience of healing and transformation and clarity of purpose. Most importantly, it's an opportunity to really sync up and bond with and make friends with like-minded people. The connections formed there are just unspeakably beautiful. And if that's something that interests you, I'll leave a link down below as well as a card or something up here. If you want to learn more, check it out. If not, have an amazing week, my friends. I'll see you soon. Peace.